Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on planning for your document management success. This is part of our ongoing webinar series on embracing the paperless office, and I'm glad that you guys could all take the time out of your day to join us today. So we've got quite a few people on the webinar today, so we'll hop right into it and make the best use of your time. So today's objective is to really look at 9 key areas that you should be evaluating before undertaking a document management project. So before you pick up the phone and you start calling vendors and you're getting quotes, what do you need to look at, or what do you need to engage these vendors or partners with before you go? The proper planning up front is going to save you a considerable amount of time, money, and resources while you move towards your paperless office goals. So one of the first things you need to do, and it's one of the key ones, is you need to get executive level support. This is really a culture change or a way of work change for your organization, and if it's not supported from the top down, it's pretty much doomed to failure. So some things you have to do while trying to achieve executive level support is really challenge the paradigm of the status quo works, or if it isn't broken, don't fix it. The whole if it ain't broke, don't fix it thing bugs me, because quite often if you actually objectively sit back and look at the processes, they probably are broken and they do need to be fixed. But the idea of change can be a scary one, so you need to work with people for that. You need to think of the big picture as well. So what is your corporation's, your organization's long-term goals, and how can you align this initiative with those goals? So is it improved customer service? Is it improved productivity? So when you're presenting this to executive level, you want to make sure you're touching on what the business's long-term goals are, because that's what they're thinking day in, day out. And of course, the what's in it for them. Most organizations, they're always looking for what's going to make me money and what's going to save me money. So look at areas where you can do that with your document management. Maybe it's improved processing time of applications, AP workflow, so that you can take advantage of early payment discounts and you're not getting late fees on invoices, and so on and so on. And in the cases when this is a project that's being delegated downwards to you, and it's coming up from the top and they're saying, hey, let's go out and let's become paperless, make sure you understand their why. Understand why they want to do this, what they're trying to accomplish, and what the goal is behind this. So really understand the reasoning behind this process shift. So when you're trying to build a business case, which obviously we all have to do, we don't go out and spend money on huge infrastructure and software and processes change just for the sake of spending money. The areas you want to look at is the time savings. I talk a lot about the BIC rule, which is butts and chairs, and what that allows you to do is to find the information you need within seconds. So you no longer have to get up, go to a cabinet or a central filing location, root through paper documents, and tell customers, hey, we're going to get back to you sooner or later with the information. You have it right there at your fingertips. It also assists with knowledge transfer. Quite often you see that you have collections of some of your files in paper, some of it's in email, some of it's on shared drives on the network, and when you're looking for something, or when you have a new employee or a new project team member who's joined, you end up having to look and scatter around all these different locations to get the complete picture. When everything's centrally located in a repository like a document management system, it's quick and easy to find what you're looking for. That means people get up to speed quicker. You're obviously going to see improved customer service. In today's days of age, with everyone on their smartphones, mobile technology, everything like that, we're expecting answers quicker than ever. Telling a customer, well, I'm going to have to look that up and get back to you maybe later today or tomorrow on it, that's not really going to fly too well with a lot of people now. They're expecting a much quicker response. And risk and security. So you want to protect your sensitive information and prepare for a disaster recovery. So if you have everything in paper files and you're building experiences of flood or sabotage or fire or any kind of disaster that we all hope and pray never actually happens but can, then you've lost all that information. The digital content, though, is very easy to back up multiple times, have a redundant failover, offsite backup, so if something did happen to your facility, you can be back up and running quickly and easily. Set it, but don't forget it. So there's a lot of ongoing maintenance and considerations you need to take into account when you're evaluating document management systems. So now that you're going to start scanning in new documents, storing more electronic files in here, what you have to look at is, what's my storage space? So what do we estimate the initial load is going to be? And what are we going to be looking at as an incremental addition every year, so that we make sure that our IT departments are properly planning for this and implementing the right amount of infrastructure for us. Data migration. So as new file formats become standard or unsupported, things like that, new operating systems become available, how are we going to move our content and our systems and our data forward? Maintenance and upgrades. So as the software comes out with version 7, version 8, version 9, are you on a maintenance plan to make sure that you're always working with the current version? And expansion. So usually what happens with systems like this is you see them start off in the department that's going to have the biggest impact for. And once things are going successful and rolling smoothly there, then they start moving into other areas of the organization. So maybe it starts off with finance, and then it moves to HR, and then it moves to operations and sales. So as you move through there, you're going to need to look at additional modules, functionality, user licenses, scanners, and back to everything else, your storage space and their infrastructure. So to scan or not to scan. So what we're talking about here is more of your back file collection. So all those historical records you have in filing cabinets, bankers boxes, a central filing room up on shelves. Do we digitalize that and put it in the system or not? Well, a couple things you want to look at is, what's the retention requirements for this? If a lot of these paper documents are becoming close to their retention periods and you can destroy them in the next year or two, you're probably more cost beneficial to leave them in the paper format. However, what are your retrieval requirements? Maybe they only need to be kept for another year or two, but you have 3 full-time employees managing a file room, and staff are in there and out of there constantly pulling files. Well, in that case, even though you don't have to keep them long term, there's a benefit in digitalizing that content so you can improve the accessibility of it for everyone. And what a lot of organizations do is they also look at, drawing a line in the sand and saying that we're only going to scan our content from this day forward. So everything prior to this will be in paper format, and we all know where to go look for that. Anything from this day forward will be in the system. One thing I would recommend, though, is that a system with content, a new system with content in it, is a lot easier for operators to use, learn how to use, and adapt with than a system that is brand spanking new, nothing in it. Because if I go to search for something and it's not there because we haven't added it yet, well, then it becomes, this doesn't work. I can never find anything. If you go and you say, let's take our last year of records, scan it, and put it in here, then when I'm looking for information, I can find it. And it makes the system more real. So, building your project team, or as I call it, having the right people on the bus, and you need to look at having people from all walks of your organization. Management's going to have obviously the executive staff. They can pull the information they need from there. They also look at the overall business impact of how it's going to affect their department as a whole. We talked about all that maintenance, the support, the infrastructure you need. You need to involve your IT departments in this as well. Can't avoid them. You also want to look at bringing your key knowledge work, the people who are in the trenches working on this information day in, day out, because they have valuable insight into the processes because they're the ones actually performing them. And they're the ones who are going to use the system on a day-to-day basis. So if they're not involved in the process, then they're going to want to probably try to circumvent the process. And of course, you want to always work with your legal counsel. If you have a in-house legal team or an outsourced firm that you keep on retainer, you want to work with them when you start looking at what are our retention requirements for our documents. Are we allowed to destroy the documents after we verified they scanned? Because these are the people that if you ever do have any kind of a legal issue arise from your that you need your documents to support, they're going to be the ones supporting you. So you need to make sure they're on board with however you're going to store and manage this information. Rome wasn't built in a day, so don't think that this is something you're going to call someone tomorrow and have it installed by the end of the week. You need to take some time to think about how you want to structure this, because all too often we've gone into organizations who've rushed the process and they've spent 5 years in adding documents into a structure that they didn't really think clearly through and they're not happy with now. So when we talk about the structure, we talk about things like the filing system. Do I want to take a whole file of a vendor's AP records for a fiscal year and scan that in as one record? Or do I want to divide it up into each individual invoice, packing slip, purchase order, and so on? We see a lot of people do is kind of a mixed system where for their historical content, they'll scan it and they'll maintain it as like a historical file, and they'll, might be 100 pages in that file that they have to leaf through. But then going forward, when they have to look at this more frequently, they want real-time scanning and ingestion into the system, they go down to that individual document level. You want to look at what types of documents you do need to subdivide by. So if we look at an HR application, their resume, their application forms, any training documents, banking info, tax info, all of those types of things, do we need to break those down, or do they again just get rolled up into Kevin Darcy's HR file? And who needs access to this information? I always lean more towards the side of giving people more access so that they have the information they can use to do their job. Obviously, want to be careful if it's a privacy issue or sensitive information that only the people who need it have access to it. But there's always been this kind of old mentality that, it's in my filing cabinet, it's locked up, and I'm the only one who looks at it. And in reality, that's not really the case. Other people do need access to it. They do come and bother you for it. And opening that up to other people in the organization is really going to help with the productivity and the efficiency of them doing their jobs. And what workflows? One of the biggest areas of ROI when we talk about document management is around electronic workflows. And what this is the routing of documents along a predefined path. So information going from step A to step B to step C, and if it's not approved at B, it jumps to D. So, if we take the idea of a accounts payable invoice comes in, gets scanned into the system, and it goes to the accounting clerk. And they're going to do a three-way match. Does it match our PO, and does it match the receiving documents we got from the vendor with the shipment? Yes, it does. Okay, let's pass it along to a departmental manager who's purchased the goods. They sign off on it. They say, yes, this is okay to pay, and it comes back to your controller who prepares a check and issues payment to the vendor. All of that gets transmitted through electronic workflow. Users get email notifications that they need to check the information in the system. And what this allows to do is that you get complete visibility into where things are in the status. So if a vendor calls up and says, hey, Kevin, I'm looking for where our payment on invoice 6789 is, we can pull it up and we can say, yeah, it's with the controller. They're cutting the check, and you'll have it in our next check run, which will be going out this Friday. So that's where really the key ROI is, and that really adds a lot of efficiency into your business processes. The other thing you want to do is make sure you obtain input from all levels. So I'm not saying that everybody needs to be involved in your project team, but you do need to interview and talk with people at all levels. One thing it does is it helps to ensure acceptance, because people feel like they're part of the solution, part of the process. They're not just being forced to use a system. They knew about this coming down the path, and they were able to provide their thoughts and feedback to it. It gives you improved insight. All too often when we start mapping out processes or workflows with customers, We will talk to managers or supervisors and say, yeah, here's how it's done, and then we go down to the floor and we talk to the people doing the work, and it's not done like that at all. They say, well, we used to do it like that, but now we do it this way because this machine or this program over here is broken, so we need to work around it. And we see that all too often, so it really helps you see, are processes running the way you thought they are, and do they need to be modified because of reasons that maybe management are unknown to at the point. Look for redundancies as well. We see a lot of processes where multiple people are doing the same task. It just gets done 2 or 3 times. And so if you map out that entire process and walk through everything, you'll find areas where people are handling the same document multiple times. They're doing the same checks, same balances on all of these to make sure everything's accurate. And it also allows you to find any crossover needs. So we talked about access and allowing people to get access to the information they need. Well, here's where we start walking through those processes, start getting input from all different levels, that now we can look for crossover needs. So maybe HR is a really sensitive topic for us. We want to lock it down. Only our HR department is allowed to see this information, but IT needs access to some of the information to set them up on different systems, your Active Directory, your network, your email, things like that. So maybe there's certain documents in the HR file that IT needs to see or management needs to see. Big one, obviously a lot of discussion around this in the last few years and still ongoing, is, do I look at a cloud or an on-site solution? Well, the benefits of an on-site solution is that you have full control over it. Everything's stored at your location. It's all running off of your servers. If something goes down, that's on you. That was because of your maintenance and your upkeep. You're not at the mercy of anybody else. Again, because it's under your control, you should have high accessibility to it. It's all right there. You can easily transition information from one system to another system. It's your information. And if you work in a really high security or high privacy application, again, you like that peace of mind that everything's contained within your 4 walls. On the flip side, though, if we look at the benefits of a cloud-based system, it's much more cost effective. You don't have to outlay the capital investment that you do to buy an on-site system. These cloud systems are monthly subscription fees. They're easy to grow and scale as you need them. And really that scalability helps. What we've seen a lot of lately is that small, medium businesses are really challenging large enterprise because they now have this technology. They have these solutions that only Fortune 500 companies could afford, but they're brought down by spreading them out over the cloud in this shared environment. They've really made them accessible to small, medium-sized businesses so they can have those same productivity benefits that bigger competition's playing. And obviously, access to information is huge in the mobile space. Any document, anywhere, anytime, any device. So you could be out with a customer, you could be an engineer working on a site, you realize that you've forgotten a document you need for the customer or a drawing. You can sit there, you can pull it up in your BlackBerry, your iPhone, your Android, whatever you have, pull it up, check the specs, check the schematics, know what you're doing without having to go back to the office. And so finally, partnering for success. So when you do say, okay, we're going to reach out to some people, we're going to call some vendors or some solution partners to start moving forward with this project, what should you be looking for? Well, you want to look for somebody who has document management and records management experience. That should be the core focus of their business. And the reason I bring this one up is that a few years back, a lot of the big guys like the Canons of the world and the Ricos of the world and Xerox and all these folks, they came out with quote-unquote document management systems. And they started bundling it with their multifunction scanners because they had the scanning ability and they wanted to differentiate themselves. And the problem is that at the dealer level, where you're buying these devices, a lot of times, and I'm not saying it's always the case, but a lot of times they don't understand the document management, records management space. They don't understand retention controls, workflow processes. They want to get that device that consumes toner into your office and move on to the next one. So make sure that they do have a strong understanding of this environment. And again, I'm not saying that organizations like copier dealers can't have those resources, but make sure you're looking for them. References, so look for companies they've worked in similar industries, similar size, similar applications. So if you're talking HR and they're saying, yeah, we're really big in the loan processing application world. Well, it's not obviously not the same thing. You want to find someone who takes the time to understand your needs. It's not a matter of a feature dump. Oh, here's what our product is. Here's what it does. The name on the software almost shouldn't really matter. It's the people who take the time to understand your processes, what you're trying to accomplish, can map out a demonstration and a proof of concept to show that their solution can meet your needs. That's who you're looking for, not necessarily buying a brand name. With that being said, though, you can look at, one thing you should look at is that the solution they're offering, are they a distributor or a reseller for a bigger name product, or is this something they developed themselves in-house? I tend to lean more towards somebody who's a reseller or distributor of a major package. And again, not from the brand recognition point, that shouldn't matter. It's that if you choose a vendor and, heaven forbid, something happens, they go out of business, they get out of that space, you still need support. And if this was a custom written program, then you're kind of in a bind because they were the ones who understood it, coded it, supported it, and now you're without any support. Where if they're a reseller or a distributor for a major product, you can always go to another reseller or distributor and start your support up again. So that about wraps this one up. So just a little bit about us. For over 40 years, we've helped companies large and small who are frustrated because of the service delays caused by slow record retrieval. They're unhappy with the space required for document storage and who struggle with information access and sharing it amongst team members. So we offer a wide variety of services in the records management, document management space, such as document scanning services, document management software, workflow and office automation solutions, legacy conversion. So if you have old microfilm or old computer programs that aren't working with your today's standards, we can migrate those. And we also offer the hardware and software to enable you to scan and accurately capture information throughout your office. So we'll dive into any questions that you have now. And before we do that, I just want to remind you that you can keep in touch with us through any of these methods here. We're on all the social media channels, so LinkedIn, Twitter. We've got some great educational videos up on YouTube. We've got our Google Plus page and so on. This ebook here that you'll see the offer for, this is going to come out to you guys a little later today in an email. You'll have the download link for that as well. So let's look at a couple questions that we have here. So first question is around pricing and how much do systems like this cost? And that's a really tough question to answer. It really depends on the size of your organization, the amount of people who need access, how many workflows or electronic forms, and really what you want to do. It's not a cut and dry question. I mean, we have some systems in place for customers that work well and they're happy with them and it does exactly what they need and they were sub $5,000. Where we have other systems that, again, still work well, still meet all their needs, much larger organizations, very complicated workflows and document processing, and you're into a six-figure system. So it can really range, but that's one of the things we do is we sit down, we understand where your needs are, where you're at, and help you out with that along the way. Next question was on electronic forms. I mentioned that a little bit. And specifically around mobile capture. What we're seeing more common out there than somebody actually running around with a tablet and filling out a form on a tablet and having the customer sign it is what people are finding is that those types of systems are not always cost effective if you have a large mobile force. So if we think of field service technicians who are running around fixing HVAC systems, they're not usually the most gentle with this type of equipment. So what ends up happening is they break it, there's a high replacement cost, but also the software to run these mobile applications is very expensive. What we tend to see more is people still stick with a paper form if I'm sitting across the table from a customer. They also find it's a little bit more of an intimate relationship that they can have with the customer, and they can run through it, they can answer all the questions, and what they'll do afterwards is then they'll use either their mobile device or a portable scanner to capture that document and automatically upload it into their document management system. So that looks like pretty much all the questions. So again, you'll get a follow-up email from us, and by all means feel free to reach out and reply back to us once you get that if you have any other questions that we didn't cover today. And if you have any questions or any other ways that you'd like us to help out or answer any questions, again, feel free to keep in touch with us, and hope you can join us next month for our follow-up webinar in our Embracing the Paperless Office series. And again, thank you for your time today.